to a shock development in the long-running controversy over Martin Bashir's interview with Diana, Princess of Wales. Bashir suggested allegations he secured the interview with Diana, Princess of Wales, through deceit were due to him being non-white and would not have been made had he been a Dimbleby. Well, I'm joined now in the studio by GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, an astonishing allegation and a complicated case. Tell us the story.
Yeah, absolutely. So Diana interview with BBC's Panorama, Martin Bashir, the journalist, it changed history, let's be frank. This is where she famously said there were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded, referring to the now King and Queen. But in 2021, an inquiry, the Dyson inquiry, Lord Dyson, found that Martin Bashir was in serious breach of the BBC's producer guidelines because he faked bank statements, which he then showed to Princess Diana's brother in order to gain access to her. The report also found that the BBC covered up that deceitful behaviour. It led to Prince William doing a very rare, very public statement saying that the interview should never be shown again. It fueled Diana's paranoia, etc., etc. So what's happened this morning is there was an ITV documentary back in 2020 which interviewed the BBC graphic designer who created these fake bank documents, and an investigative journalist called Andy Webb went to the BBC with a Freedom of Information request wanting emails with Bashir in the run-up to this ITV documentary. The BBC refused to give up those emails, and they spent reportedly hundreds of thousands of pounds in the courts trying to stop these emails being released. The judge disagreed, and in December he forced the BBC to release the emails, and today we have got them in black and white, where, as you said in your link, Martin Bashir believes all these allegations are because he is not white, and that if it was Dimbleby, David Dimbleby or somebody doing the interview, we wouldn't have had any of these allegations, which is in contrast to what the Dyson reports came out and said. But this morning on GB News, we had Andy Webb in the studio, and he suggested that the BBC could be answerable to some criminality. So let's have a listen to what he said.
There's clear evidence from emails that I've already seen that at the centre, if you like, or close to the centre of our email circle is the Chief of Staff to the Director General, a chap called Phil Harold. Now, if Mr. Harold was acting as Chief of Staff with the blessing of his immediate boss, just one rung up, then that does raise enormous questions, I think, about Tim Davies. To unlawfully conceal information is a crime, and the BBC has, as I allege, committed an actual criminal offence.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance for the BBC because, of course, they want to be impartial and accurate and fair, and all of this stuff happened 30 years ago. But at the same time, these emails were, according to Andy Webb, heavily redacted.
So that begs the question, Cameron. If the emails are heavily redacted, they spent all this dosh trying to stop them being released in the first place. What have they got to hide?
Well, either there is some potentially very explosive detail in the redacted parts of the email, or, as the BBC argues during the court case, there is simply irrelevant information, and therefore there's no point releasing it. So it's a very tricky situation, but of course you've got a right to reply from BBC.
We have. Cameron Walker, thank you very much. And in that lengthy statement released today, the BBC said this: "We have made redactions where necessary, consistent with the Freedom of Information Act. There is nothing to support the allegations that the BBC acted in bad faith in 2020, and we maintain this suggestion is simply wrong."